Hello ladies, gentlemen, and my NB friends. Welcome back to the Keldean channel. I'm your host, Keldean, and today we're going to be talking about the game I waited 5 years for. 5 blooming years. So Avowed released on Tuesday, and I jokingly said that I would milk it to make up for how long I waited for the game to release, and you're watching me do just that. Truthfully, I really have been enjoying Avowed a lot, and after passing the 10 hours of in-game time, I figured I'd just jot down my thoughts and make a quick little first impressions type video. There are things I really love, and a few things I laughed at, but without further ado, we should just dive right in, and let's take a quick, spoiler-free look at Avowed and talk about things that stuck out to me when I was playing. What better way to begin than with the very beginning? First thing that stuck out to me was how good the character creation is. The godlike features are neat, but not as varied or subtle as I would have initially liked going into the game blind. That said, I understand why it isn't subtle, but I also like that it's optional. The amount of customization you have though is very cool, and I do quite like the character creation as a whole. Next, let's talk gameplay. The gameplay is very addictive. The gameplay loop includes talking to people and gathering journal entries for the story and lore, running out into the wild for your quest, and then killing people indiscriminately. My average Saturday night. That's right, running to quests is engaging. On your way there, you may find an optional little area, some chests to loot, or plants to forage. Why does foraging matter? Because you can set up camp and have the ability to refine, enchant, or craft things to be used in combat. Want your sword to deal a bit more damage? Go ahead and refine it at the workstation. Running low on health potions? Grab some plants to eat or use to craft specialty items that'll heal you for more points. The combat itself is also just great. The dodging from the Outer Worlds is back, but it's quicker and even more snappy, making it a true dodge to be used at opportune times. You have a stamina meter that goes down from dashing, attacking, and blocking, which is pretty standard. You also have an essence meter that is drained whenever you use magic, so you have to use magic sparingly or go through all of your essence regen items, which isn't really wise on just normal encounters. Some of my favorite aspects though is the weapon engagement, unit types, and parry systems. Let me break those down. There are a variety of weapons, and you have so much freedom as to how you build your arsenal. Do you want to be a standard mace and shield kind of player? Or perhaps you swap that mace for a wand and become a ranged magic-wielding defensive unit. Perhaps you play with a sword and pistol for melee and range capabilities without having to swap your setup, but then you sacrifice defense. You have options, and that's really awesome for a game like this. One of my biggest critiques of Skyrim is that there's really only like 3 options to how you play the game, and even then you can just master everything and hot swap to any weapon you want in a millisecond. Here you can swap to whatever by opening the menu, but so far everything is specialized and has a clear distinction from one set to another. A gun is very different from a bow, a spear is very different from a sword, a wand is very different from a grimoire. On the surface they might all have similar traits, but they are all different and have unique qualities. The spear can hit from farther away, a sword has a pouncing heavy attack, a bow is quiet but has drop off, etc. Each weapon type feels specialized and takes a certain level of understanding and getting used to, and I really love that. It'll make subsequent playthroughs a lot more engaging for sure. Also, units have distinct types that can be identified by their weapons or names. What I mean is that certain enemies may have similar attack styles, which can make them easier to predict and deal with. It doesn't necessarily get repetitive either, and I think that's because they're always in groups and aren't exact copies, so it keeps the enemy pool fresh. Next, let's talk about the parry system and skill tree. The parry is really nice. It's a skill that lets you briefly stun enemies if you block at just the right time. This is fun and difficult to master, but is a legit skill that you have to hone. When you do, you're benefited in combat, which is how things should work in my opinion. The skill tree itself is just really varied, and you have 3 main trees, but each tree has different passives to play off of and invest in, which provide unique buffs and abilities. Do I want to slow time when aiming a bow, or get a damage increase with bows? The damage increase may be the simple solution, but then you realize you miss your shots and jeopardize your hiding spot more times than you'd like. That slow time is a perfect counterbalance to your peril. Do you want to risk your chances by parrying, or just get a flat health increase to tank the hits? The choice is yours, and while you could theoretically invest in both, that seems like a good way of making a bad character, especially with this difficulty curve. Okay, let's get this out of the way. There have been several occasions in which I just get flattened by enemies a stone's throw away from my intended route. Like I take a few steps to explore, find enemies to kill, but for some reason they're 50 times harder than the group I just dealt with. What gives? Also, why can't I rearrange the skills on my taskbar? Can I? I can't figure out how and I don't remember the game telling me how. Back to things I like. The movement is great. I don't speedrun games, but I will say a game's enjoyment is derived from its movement. Okay, that's not entirely true, but it is a factor in open world games like this. Why find a way to this group of enemies when I can just scale this wall? I legit couldn't figure out how to get to the other side of this bridge, so I just scaled the rocks. I didn't want to swim through the cellar, so I just jumped out the entrance up the top. I was just trying to be funny and it actually worked. I don't even know what happened here. Point is, I love the movement and physics in this game. Any game that lets me do stuff like this is put on my nice list because it's just funny and creates awkward and mindless fun. Oh, I think I was supposed to freeze the water then jump across. That makes way more sense. Also, I love how the elements are used in this game. Like, that's some unique puzzle solving and it's just one example of many. It's so neat. I love the armor setup. I much prefer the simpler gear layouts instead of the Fallout 4 you have 18 pieces of gear to mix and match. Here, you have the armor for armor, gloves and shoes for extra stats, and then a necklace and 2 rings for unique bonuses. Very simple and easy to understand. Also, I don't think I've seen this before, but you can use one set of armor, then transmog another in your inventory so that you appear to be wearing one while getting the benefits of another. I've not really seen that outside of an MMO, and it's so cool. It's a shame I play this game in first person. The story of this game has me hooked. Avowed takes place in the Pillars of Eternity universe, and I've never played those games before. So far, I am really intrigued though. It's very foreboding, dark, and includes political tensions. But so far, I'm liking the story and I've not been lost at all. It explains everything that it really needs to. So for those wondering, so far, it appears to stand on its own legs, so to speak. So I haven't mentioned the talking to people and journal entries part really. Well, I mentioned it, but I didn't elaborate. Yes, I love the journal entries scattered around the world. Even more, do I love that some journal entries, typically the more lore-intensive ones, are able to be collected and added to your journal menu so that you can read them whenever. This is great when you come across one and don't want to ruin the pacing of your dungeon exploration. Speaking of ruining the pacing of something, conversations with NPCs. Ladies and gentlemen, segues. So whenever you start a convo with someone, the screen fades out and back into a weird camera angle with the NPC while they're talking. It's kind of pace breaking, but more so it's really funny. Like some of these angles are just humorous, like what is the focus of this even supposed to be? For all the weird camera angles that make you laugh, there's one suicide note in a cabin out in the fields. That's right players, stop laughing. And last but not least, the graphics and the art direction is actually incredible. The game looks great, the colors are vibrant, and there's a clear vision to the world you're exploring. All of it, it's just phenomenal. The Outer Worlds was similar, albeit more cartoonish in its presentation, but gosh dang it, this game just looks so good. That doesn't excuse RTX being on by default. I'm not anti-RTX, but I'd be lying if I said it made any noticeable difference for me. After a while I turned it off because the game just didn't run great. I even had to tweak a few other settings and I still dip below 60 frames per second sometimes. Like, why? Also, when I raise my FPS cap, how come the FPS doesn't actually increase? That's an odd bug I'm having. My rig can take it, I'd imagine. I would think a 3070 could take this. It's not the most intensive or graphically impressive game that I've run. I just have odd performance issues and hiccups, and I play without RTX and not on max settings. All that said though, the game still looks great, but I've just had some issues and it's really weird. Well, that's everything that I had noted down. This was very similar to my last video where I took notes on the Outer Worlds 2 trailer, only this time it's for a game I've actually played. So far I'm willing to say that Avowed has been worth the wait. My first 10 hours have brought me mostly joy and I'm really looking forward to see what's next. Stay tuned and maybe we'll discover what awaits us. Or maybe I'll make actual good videos. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed hearing my first impressions, please leave a like or comment down below. If you let me know, I might do more for other games I play in the future. If my style intrigued you in any way, feel free to check out my recent videos or subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming ones. Check me out on socials, links in the descriptions. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a great one. Okay, bye bye.